It was a cold morning in September when Lena Rowan drove her blue car into the cemetery parking lot. She looked at her watch. It was 8:15 a.m., just like every Sunday for the past 3 years. Her routine never changed. She got out of the car and took her folding chair and her little bag from the back seat. The bag had her coffee, a pen, and a notebook. The cemetery was quiet, just the way Lena liked it. The grass was wet and made the bottom of her jeans damp as she walked along the same path she always did, to her husband Micah's grave. His headstone stood under a big oak tree. It was made of simple gray stone with his name and the dates he was born and died. "Good morning, Micah," Lena said, setting up her chair. Lena was 30 years old now, but she still felt like the 27-year-old woman who had cried so hard during Micah's funeral. She poured some coffee into a cup and placed it on Micah's headstone. "Black with 1 sugar, just how you liked it," she said. Then she poured a second cup for herself. "I know you'd say I'm wasting good coffee," she added with a small smile, "but some habits are hard to break." Lena took a deep breath and opened her notebook. Every Sunday, she wrote a letter to Micah. It had started because her therapist told her to try it, to help her feel better. But now, it meant so much more. It helped her feel close to him. She clicked her pen and started writing. "Dear Micah, I had that dream again last night. The one where you're still here, and we're back in our old apartment. Everything felt normal, but this time I knew it was a dream, even while I was dreaming. I knew you weren't really there, but I still didn't want to wake up." Tears came to Lena's eyes, but she blinked them away. She had learned over the past 3 years that sometimes it was okay to cry, and sometimes it was okay not to. "Work is the same," she wrote. "Darla is still annoying with all her bossy ways. Remember how you used to make funny faces, pretending to be her? I still laugh when I think about it." The wind gently moved the tree branches, and Lena looked up at the bright blue sky. It was the kind of sky Micah had always loved. "I miss you," she whispered. "Not just the big things. I miss the way you hummed while brushing your teeth. I miss your socks under the couch. I miss your voice and your laugh. Some days I miss you so much, I don't know how to keep going." At the same time, across the cemetery, a man named Callan Duvall was walking with his head down. His hands were in the pockets of his fancy coat. He was 32, but he looked older because he had been through so much sadness. Every Sunday, Callan came to visit his sister Iris's grave. She had died from cancer 5 years ago. Before that, his parents died in a plane crash when he was 20. His wife Maeve had died in a car crash when he was 25. Each loss made him feel more and more empty. Now, Callan was the head of a big tech company worth billions of dollars. But he felt like a shell, a man with no joy. He didn't like people to see him, so he always visited early when the cemetery was empty. He reached Iris's grave. Her stone was made of white marble. It said, "Beloved sister, friend to all." Callan didn't talk out loud like Lena did. He kept his sadness inside. He just stood there quietly, thinking of memories. Then he heard a voice. It was normal to hear other people at the cemetery, but something about this voice made him turn. A woman was sitting on a chair, reading from a notebook. "I went to our favorite restaurant yesterday," Lena was saying. "I sat at our table and ordered your usual. The waiter thought I was strange for ordering 2 meals, but I didn't care. Sometimes I need to remember the small things, or I'm afraid I'll forget them." Callan knew he shouldn't listen. This was her private time, but her words touched his heart. How many times had he ordered Maeve's favorite dessert, even though he didn't like it? He turned back to Iris's grave, but Lena kept reading aloud. "I'm angry with you today, Micah," she said. "I know it's not fair. You didn't choose to leave. That truck ran a red light while you were on your motorcycle. But I'm still angry. You promised me forever, and 3 years isn't forever. Not even close." Callan closed his eyes. He knew that kind of anger. He had felt it too. Lena wiped away a tear and kept writing. "Even when I'm mad, I still love you. I still miss you. I still wish you were here." Suddenly, the wind blew hard and one of the pages from Lena's notebook flew out. She gasped and tried to catch it, but it flew away. Callan saw the paper flying toward him. He reached out and caught it just in time. He looked down at the page before he could stop himself. It said, "Sometimes I worry I'm forgetting your laugh. I listen to your old voicemails just to hear your voice. But it's not the same. I miss the way you laughed in your sleep. Did you know you used to do that? There are so many little things only I know about you. Sometimes that feels like too much to carry alone." Callan felt something deep inside him. He had written almost those same words in his own journal after Maeve died. Then he saw Lena running toward him. Her brown hair had come loose from her ponytail. She looked worried. "I'm so sorry," she said, reaching out. The wind took it. Callan handed the paper back. He didn't look directly at her. "It's okay," he said. Their fingers touched for a second, and they looked at each other. They didn't speak at first. Lena saw a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes. He was handsome but looked sad, just like her. "Thank you," she said softly, holding the paper close to her chest. "You're welcome," Callan replied, turning to leave. But Lena spoke again. "Do you come here often?" she asked. Then she laughed. "That sounded like a bad pickup line. I just meant, I'm here every Sunday, and I've never seen you before." Callan stopped. He didn't usually talk to people, but something made him answer. "I come every Sunday too, just a different part," he said, pointing toward Iris's grave. "Oh," Lena said kindly, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For your loss. Whoever you're visiting." Callan felt a lump in his throat. People didn't usually talk about his sadness. "My sister," he said. "You?" "My husband," Lena said. Her voice shook a little. 3 years ago. They both knew there were no magic words to make it better. "I'm Lena," she said, offering her name like a gift. Callan didn't want her to know his full name. She might figure out he was famous. "Ash," he said. It was part of his real name, just not all of it. "Well, thank you again, Ash," Lena said, holding up the letter. "I should get back." "Of course." Lena walked back to Micah's grave and sat down. She tucked the page back into her notebook and looked over her shoulder. Ash was gone. "Something strange just happened, Micah," she said aloud. "I met someone. Not like that," she added quickly, as if Micah could hear and might feel jealous. "Just someone who understands what this feels like. Is that silly?" She sipped her now cold coffee and looked at Micah's stone. "I talk to you every week, but sometimes I wonder if anyone else knows what this is like. Living after someone you love is gone. Trying to keep going when you feel so empty." For the next hour, Lena finished her letter, drank her coffee, and sat quietly. When it was time to leave, she packed her bag and chair. "Same time next week," she promised, touching the stone gently before walking to her car. What she didn't know was that Callan had gone home already. He drove back to his tall apartment building in a black car. And for the first time in many years, he wasn't just thinking about his work or his sadness. He was thinking about her. He sat at his desk and opened his laptop. His assistant had sent him the schedule for tomorrow's meeting. Business stuff, like buying new land and building new offices. But then he saw something that made him freeze. One of the pieces of land his company had bought was the cemetery, the place where Iris was buried, the place where Lena visited Micah. It was going to be turned into buildings. Ash slammed his laptop shut. He hadn't known. His company was too big for him to see every deal. But now that he did know, he couldn't just let it happen. He stood by the window, looking at the city. And for the first time in years, he felt something new. Not just sadness, something like a reason to care again. He made a decision. He would go back next Sunday. He would see Lena again. And maybe, just maybe, he would tell her the truth, who he really was and what was going to happen. But first, he had to stop his own company's plans without anyone noticing. Because something told him those quiet Sundays in the cemetery meant more than any business deal ever could. As the sun went down over the city, Callan picked up a pen and a piece of paper. It had been many years since he wrote anything by hand. It had also been years since he tried to write down his feelings. "Dear Iris," he began. Then he stopped. That didn't feel right. He crumpled the paper and threw it away. He started again. "To the woman who writes letters to her husband," he wrote. That felt better. He didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, Kalen Duvall felt curious. The next Sunday was gray and rainy. Lena sat in her car and looked at the raindrops on her window. She almost stayed home, but for 3 years she came every Sunday, and those Sundays helped her keep going. She wore her raincoat, took her umbrella, and grabbed her bag. The cemetery was almost empty. Most people didn't come in the rain. When Lena walked to Micah's grave, she saw something different. On the bench near his grave, there was a folded piece of paper. A small stone was holding it down. Lena looked around. No one was there. She picked up the paper and opened it. It said, "To the woman who writes letters to her husband, you wrote to someone you lost. I've never written to anyone I lost, but I think I want to try with you." Lena held her breath. The handwriting was neat, but it looked like a man's. She just knew. It was from the man she met last week. Ash. She sat down on the bench and read the rest of the letter. "I heard you reading your letter last Sunday. I didn't mean to listen, but your words reached me. You said you were angry, that 3 years isn't forever. My wife died 7 years ago. I'm still angry too. Does it ever go away? I don't know. Maybe that's why we come here, to remember, to forget, to learn how to live in between." There was no name at the end. Lena read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it gently and put it in her pocket. She sat in her chair, poured her coffee, and opened her notebook. But instead of writing to Micah, she looked around, wondering if Callan was watching her. Callan was there. He stood under a big oak tree, hiding behind the trunk. He didn't plan to stay. He had left the letter earlier and wanted to leave before Lena came, but something made him stay. He saw her pick up the letter. He saw her read it. He saw her looking around the cemetery. He stepped back to stay hidden. He wasn't ready to talk to her. Last week, when they met, something inside him changed. He hadn't felt that in a long time, not since everyone he loved was gone. Callan had made a wall around his heart. Because he was rich, it was easy to stay alone. His workers didn't bother him with feelings. The board respected his space. He lived in a bubble, safe, but lonely. Now he had written to a stranger, a beautiful stranger, a woman whose sadness felt like his own. He watched as Lena started writing in her notebook. He knew he should leave, go back to his sister's grave, stick to his routine. But he waited. He wanted to see what she would do next. Lena finished her letter to Micah. It was shorter than usual. Her mind kept thinking about Ash's note. Before she left, she took a fresh page from her notebook. If Callan could write to her, then she could write back. She wrote, "To the man who's never written to someone he lost, thank you for your letter. It's strange how grief feels lonely, but others feel it too. 7 years is a long time. 3 years feels like forever to me. But I guess forever keeps getting longer." She stopped. What else should she say? "I don't know if the anger ever leaves. Some days it's small, just a whisper, like when I see a happy couple. Other days it's loud again, like when it first happened. But I think if we keep showing up, keep remembering, then we're doing okay. Maybe that's all we can hope for." She signed it simply, then left it under the bench, tucked under the same stone. The next Sunday, Callan came earlier than usual. He visited his sister Iris's grave first, then walked to Micah's grave. His heart beat faster when he saw a folded letter. He wasn't sure if she'd write back, wasn't even sure if he wanted her to. But now, holding her letter, he felt something like hope. He read her words twice, then he pulled out his pen and paper and sat down to write again. When Lena came, Callan was already gone, but his letter was waiting. It said, "Lena, thank you for writing back. I'm not good at talking about feelings. My sister used to tease me. She said I was like a Russian nesting doll, the kind that has smaller dolls inside. She said I hid the smallest one and threw away the key. Lena smiled at the picture in her mind. She kept reading. You asked if we're okay as long as we show up. I've been thinking about that. I come here, but I don't think I'm really here. Not like you are. You bring coffee, you talk to your husband, your grief is alive, mine feels empty. Is that worse? I don't know. At the bottom he wrote, P.S. My sister loved the rain. She said the rain was like the sky washing everything clean, so we could start over. I thought of that last Sunday, watching the rain fall on her grave, and I wondered what you were thinking as it fell on his. Lena sat on the bench again. His words made her feel seen. She looked around, hoping to spot him, but the cemetery was quiet, just one old couple far away. She did her usual routine, wrote to Micah, but her mind kept drifting to Ash, the man behind the letters who understood her. She wrote him back and left the letter under the bench, and so every Sunday they wrote to each other. They never met, but they shared their thoughts and hearts on paper. Callan wrote about his sister, Iris. She was bright and friendly. He liked computers more than people. He wrote about his parents and how Iris helped him after they died. He wrote about his wife, Maeve. They met in college. She died only 3 years after their wedding. He didn't write about being rich or about his big company or that his company owned the cemetery land. Lena wrote about Micah. They met when she spilled coffee on him. He asked her to marry him in the rain because he couldn't wait another minute. He wanted children. They waited until they had more money. Now she wished they hadn't waited. Their letters got longer. They told each other jokes, dreams, and little wins in life. After 4 weeks, Callan left a different kind of note. I'll be at the Blue Cup Cafe on Main Street this Saturday at 10 a.m. If you'd like to have coffee with a friend who understands, I'll be waiting. If not, I'll understand too. Lena read the note many times. Part of her wanted to meet him. Part of her was scared. What if meeting him ruined the special feeling of the letters? But she was curious, so she decided to go. Saturday morning, Lena changed her clothes 3 times. She picked jeans and a soft blue sweater. She arrived at the cafe 5 minutes early. Her heart was beating fast. She told herself this was just coffee. With someone who understood sadness, nothing more. She saw him right away. Callan sat at a table in the corner. He wore a nice coat and a white shirt. When they saw each other, he stood up with a shy smile. Lena, he said. Ash, she answered, suddenly feeling shy. It's good to see you, he said. I wasn't sure you'd come. I wasn't sure either, she said, but I'm glad I did. They sat down. He pointed to a cup of coffee. I ordered it for you. Black, with 1 sugar. Like Micah liked it. Like you drink it now. Lena felt warm inside. He remembered that small thing. Thank you, she said. I hope this isn't too weird, Callan said. Meeting like this. It is strange, Lena laughed. But good strange, I think. Soon they were talking easily. They spoke about books, movies, traffic, and work. They didn't talk about grief. That was for Sundays, for the cemetery, for letters. 2 hours passed quickly. I should go, Lena said. I'm helping my friend find a wedding dress. Ash nodded. Of course. As they stood outside the cafe, he asked, would you like to do this again sometime? Lena smiled. I'd like that very much. She looked at him kindly. Thank you for the coffee, she said, and for the letters. They've meant a lot to me. To me too, Callan said softly. They stood quietly for a moment. He wanted to hold her hand, but didn't. It was too soon. Too complicated. I'll see you tomorrow? Lena asked. At the cemetery? Ash nodded. I'll be there. As Lena walked away, Callan stood still and watched her go. He felt so many different things inside. For the first time in many years, he felt a little bit happy. But that happiness was not complete. It was mixed with a big secret he had been keeping from her. He told himself, tomorrow, tomorrow, I will tell her everything. I will tell her about the cemetery and what my company is planning. I will fix it before it's too late. But Callan didn't know that far across town his chief officer was already in a meeting. They were talking to builders and making final plans. They wanted to start digging in the cemetery next month. The work was moving faster than Callan thought. Soon it would be too late to stop anything. Somewhere between the coffee shop and her friend's home, Lena's phone made a sound. It was a news alert. She looked at it without much care. But then she stopped walking. Her eyes grew wide. A familiar face was on the screen. It was Ash, or really, Callan Duvall, the rich boss of Duvall Technologies. The headline said, "Duvall expands empire, new development to transform historic site." Lena read the article and her heart sank. The historic site was Oakwood Cemetery. That's where Micah was buried. That's where she and Callan met every Sunday. And now she knew the truth. He had been hiding this from her the whole time. That night, Lena could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ash's face and that terrible news story. She felt so hurt. She hadn't known him for long, but somehow it still felt like a deep betrayal. She had felt like she knew him through the letters, through their quiet talks, through their grief. Now, it all felt like a lie. Sunday morning came. The sky was blue, but the air was cold. Lena sat in her car outside the cemetery. Her hands held the steering wheel tightly. Part of her wanted to drive away and never come back. She thought about finding a new place for Micah, a place where rich men didn't write sweet letters while planning to dig up graves. But she couldn't leave Micah, and she needed answers. She picked up her things and walked quickly to Micah's grave. She was angry. Her steps were fast and hard. When she reached the grave, she saw him, Callan, not Ash, sitting on the bench. He had a letter in his hand. He stood up when he saw her. He smiled, but when he saw her angry face, his smile disappeared. "Lena, don't," he began. But she threw her bag on the ground and cut him off. "Don't say my name like we're friends," she snapped. Callan looked confused. "What's wrong?" Lena pulled out her phone and showed him the news article. "This is what's wrong, Mr. Duvall." Callan's face turned pale. "Lena, I can explain." "Explain what?" she shouted. "That you lied to me for weeks? That while you wrote sweet letters, you were planning to destroy this place?" Her voice broke at the last word. "It's not like that," Callan said softly. He ran his hand through his hair. "I didn't know about the cemetery at first. It was being handled by a different part of my company. I look after many projects." "Oh, and that makes it better?" Lena said angrily, grabbing her phone back. "You've known for weeks, every Sunday, every letter, and you said nothing." Callan looked at the letter he had brought. He held it out to her. "I was going to tell you today, that's what this letter is for." But Lena shook her head. "I don't want any more letters." Her voice was shaking. "You sat with me, you smiled, you acted like you cared, but you never told me you had the power to take it all away." "I'm not taking anything away," Callan said. "Once I found out, I've been trying to stop it." "Then why haven't you?" she asked. "You're the boss. You own the company. You could stop it if you really wanted to." "It's not that easy," he said. "There are contracts, there are investors. I can't just say stop and make it happen." "Don't talk to me about easy," Lena said. Her eyes were full of tears. "My husband is buried here. I was supposed to grow old with him. Nothing about that is easy." She turned away and set up her chair beside Micah's grave, like she always did. Her hands were shaking so much she could hardly open the chair. "Lena, please," Callan said, taking a step closer. "Let me fix this." She didn't even look at him. "Just go." Callan stood still for a moment, then placed the letter on the bench and walked away. Lena waited until he was gone. Then the tears came. She cried for Micah, for the peaceful place that might be taken from her. And yes, for Callan too, for the special bond she thought they had. When her tears dried, she saw the letter on the bench. She didn't want to read it, but something inside her said she should. She picked it up and opened it. "Lena, by the time you read this, I will have told you the truth about who I really am and what my company is planning. I should have told you sooner. I was scared." Scared of losing these Sundays, scared of losing you. What you don't know is that I've been trying to stop the project since I found out. I've been searching for ways, legal reasons, new places to build, anything to protect this place. So far, I've only been able to slow it down. But I promise you, I will not let them touch this place. Not your husband's grave. Not my sister's. Not any of them. If I have to buy out every investor or fight every lawsuit, I will. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because I can't take this away from you. The letter went on to explain all the legal problems and the battle inside his own company. It ended with, I understand if you can't forgive me, but please give me a chance to make it right. Lena folded the letter and put it in her pocket. She didn't know if she could believe him. She wanted to believe him, but trust is hard to get back after it's broken. She poured her coffee, she opened her notebook, but the words didn't come. After sitting for a long time, she packed her things and left. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't write a letter to Micah. Across town, Callan was in his big office. He was on the phone, making call after call, to lawyers, to board members, to the people running the cemetery project. I don't care about the profits, he said. Find another place to build. Mr. Duval, the project leader, said, we've already spent millions. Tafet, we're almost ready to start. If we stop now, it'll cost even more. I don't care what it costs, Callan said firmly. The cemetery is off limits. All of it. Sir, the man said, the board and the shareholders won't like this. I'll talk to the board, Callan said. You find a new place today. Then he hung up. He rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept all night. His assistant came in. Mr. Duval, the board is ready for the meeting you asked for. I'll be there in 5 minutes, he said. After she left, he pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket, Lena's last letter to him. He read it again. Sometimes I think grief is like the tide. It comes and goes, but never leaves. The trick is learning to swim with it instead of fighting it. He folded it and stood up. It was time to stop fighting his feelings and start fighting for something that mattered. The boardroom was full of people in suits. They all looked at Callan like he was crazy. Let me get this straight, said one man. You want to stop a $100 million project because of a cemetery? It's not just any land, Callan said calmly. It's a sacred place for families, for people who are grieving. Since when do you care about feelings? Asked a woman. What's changed? Everything, Callan thought. But he stayed calm. What changed is how I understand the damage this project would cause. Sacred places don't make money, said another. Neither does a company with a bad reputation, Callan said. Imagine what people will say when they learn we're digging up graves. That made the room quiet. We're not digging yet, someone said. Not yet, Callan replied, but the plans show we will in 5 years. After a long talk, the board finally agreed. They didn't cancel the project, but they paused it. They would look for a different place to build. It wasn't a full win, but it was a start. The next Sunday, Lena wasn't sure if she should go back to the cemetery, but she needed to see Micah. When she got there, she was surprised. No trucks, no signs of digging. Everything looked the same. On the bench, she saw something new. A big envelope with her name on it. She opened it. Inside were a lot of papers. The top paper had a note from Callan. Lena, I promised I would fix this. I'm trying. The project is on hold, but that's not enough. Inside, you'll find the deed to the land where Micah is buried. That piece of land is now yours. No one can touch it, not even my company. This is just the first step. I'll keep working to protect the whole cemetery. Meeting you has changed everything. Lena sat on the bench, shocked. She looked at the papers. It was true. Micah's grave now belonged to her. She didn't know how to feel. Happy, angry, grateful. She saw fresh white lilies on Micah's grave. She didn't bring them. Maybe Callan did. That thought made her feel warm inside and confused. Was she still mad at him? Lena opened her notebook. This time, the words came easily. She wrote to Micah and told him everything. About Callan, about the letters, about the gift. I don't know what to do, she wrote. Part of me wants to forgive him. He's trying so hard, but part of me is scared. Scared to trust again. Scared to let someone new into this space that's been just ours for so long. Lena was sitting on a bench writing in her notebook. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. She looked up and saw Callan standing a little far away. I'm sorry to bother you, he said quietly. I can come back later. Lena closed her notebook. No, it's okay. I was just finishing. Callan looked at an envelope on the bench. Did you read it? Yes, Lena said. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Callan replied. It's not a gift. It's just something I should have done a long time ago. Lena looked at his face. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked very tired. Thank you for the flowers, she said. Callan's face softened. You're welcome. Lilies were Iris's favorite. I thought. He stopped, unsure what to say next. They're beautiful, Lena said kindly. A quiet moment passed between them. Have you been here all night? Lena asked. She noticed he was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Callan gave a tired smile. Is it that obvious? I've been working on a plan to protect the whole cemetery, not just your part. It's tricky, but I think I found a way. Lena was curious. What kind of plan? A conservation trust, Callan said, his eyes shining. We can make a nonprofit group to take care of the cemetery and keep it safe. My company would give the land to the trust so no one can ever build on it again. It was a good idea, a really good one. But Lena still felt a little upset. Why are you doing all this? She asked. Is it because you feel guilty? Callan shook his head. No, well, I do feel bad for not telling you the truth sooner. But I'm doing this because, for the first time in 7 years, I care again. About something. About someone. Your letters, your words, they woke something in me I thought was gone. I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Lena was surprised. She didn't expect him to say that. I don't know if I can trust you, she said honestly. I understand, Callan said. I know I have to earn your trust. I'm just asking for a chance. Lena looked at Micah's grave, at the lilies, at the paper that protected the land. Then she looked back at Callan. His eyes looked tired, but also full of hope. Okay, she said softly. A chance. Callan looked so relieved. Thank you. The sun rose higher in the sky as they sat together on the bench talking about how to save the cemetery. It wasn't full forgiveness yet, but it was a start. What they didn't know was that across town a man named Gavin Stone was in a secret meeting with some builders. Callan's gone soft, he said, but we don't need his permission to move ahead. We just have to convince the board to vote him out. The builders smiled. How do we do that? Gavin pushed a folder across the table. By showing them how unstable he's become. I had him followed all week. You won't believe what I found. Inside the folder were pictures of Callan at the cemetery with Lena, and even copies of their letters. The worst part was a paper showing Callan gave some cemetery land to Lena. He's risking $100 million project for a woman he barely knows, Gavin said. If that's not a reason to remove him, I don't know what is. The trap was ready, but Callan didn't know it. He was too busy trying to do the right thing. 2 weeks passed after Lena gave Callan a second chance. They spent almost every day together, working on the trust to save the cemetery. Lena even took time off from her job as an art teacher. She wanted to help as much as she could. Callan turned his home office into their planning space. One wall had maps of the cemetery. Another had important papers. Lena was impressed with how hard he was working and how much he had changed. I think we're making progress, Callan said one evening, looking over their papers. The historical group wants to help. They'll write about why the cemetery is important. Lena nodded and took a sip of coffee. What about your company's board? Any trouble? Callan looked a little worried. Some. Gavin Stone is giving me a hard time, but don't worry, I can handle him. But Callan didn't tell her everything. Gavin had been trying to turn the board against him. He was saying that Callan was making bad choices because of his feelings. Kalen called for an emergency board meeting the next day. He planned to show his plan and fix everything. He believed he could convince them. He had to. "You look tired," Lena said, noticing his face. Kalen smiled. "I'm fine." "No, you're not," she said. "You've been working nonstop." She was right. Kalen was barely sleeping, but seeing Lena and working with her made it all worth it. "Let's take a break," Lena suggested. "Let's go for a walk." Callan checked the time. "It's almost midnight, but the park across the street is well lit. We could use some fresh air." 20 minutes later, they were walking in the quiet park. The night was cool. The moon was big and round. "Thank you," Callan said. "For what?" Lena asked. "For giving me another chance. For helping with all this." Lena smiled. "I should thank you. You're risking your company to save the cemetery." "It's worth it," Callan said simply. They stopped at a small fountain. The sound of water was peaceful. "Can I ask you something?" Lena said. "Anything," he replied. "Do you think it's possible to love two people, not at the same time, but one after the other?" Kalen's heart beat faster. He thought about it. "Yes," he said. "Love isn't like something that runs out. It's not used up." Lena looked away. "I feel guilty," she said, "about you, about how I feel when I'm with you." Callan wanted to hold her hand, but didn't. "You don't have to feel guilty," he said. "Micah would want you to be happy." "How do you know what he would want?" she asked. "Because I knew Maeve," Callan said. "If she had been the one left behind, I would have wanted her to find happiness again, someone who understood her but didn't let the sadness take over." Lena was quiet. Then she slowly reached for his hand. "I think Micah would have liked you," she said. Callan held her hand gently. "I think I would have liked him too." They walked back to Kalen's building, holding hands. The next morning, Kalen got to work early. He wanted to check his presentation before the board meeting, but something felt wrong. Tessa, his assistant, looked nervous. "Mr. Duval, the board is already in a meeting," she said. "Mr. Stone called it early without telling you." Callan felt his stomach drop. "How long have they been in there?" he asked. "About half an hour." Callan walked quickly to the boardroom. He could hear loud voices behind the door. He opened it. All 12 board members were sitting. Gavin was standing in Kalen's spot. The room got quiet. "Ah, Kalen," Gavin said fake nicely. "Glad you could join us. We were talking about your recent actions." Kalen looked around. On the wall, a projector showed pictures of him and Lena. At the cemetery, his apartment, the park. "What is this, Gavin?" Callan asked calmly. "This is an intervention," Gavin said. "The board is worried about you. You've been acting strange ever since you met this woman." Callan looked at everyone. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked angry. "So this is about me wanting to save a cemetery?" he asked. "It's about more than that," Gavin said. He clicked to the next slide, a paper showing Callan gave Lena the land. "You gave away land worth millions to someone you barely know. That's bad judgment." Callan stayed calm. "I didn't give away company land," he said. "I bought that piece with my own money and gave it to Ms. Rowan. It has nothing to do with our business." Gavin scoffed. "You made that deal because of your feelings, and that affects our business." "The cemetery isn't even a big part of our company," Callan said. "It's a small part of a small project." He looked at the whole board. "I came here to share a new plan, but it looks like Gavin just wants to attack me instead." "The board already voted," Gavin said. "We're going back to the old plan and we're voting to remove you as CEO." Callan felt cold inside. He hadn't expected Gavin to go this far. "On what reason?" he asked. "Emotional problems," Gavin said. "The rules say if 2/3 of us think you can't do your job, we can vote you out." Callan looked at each board member. He needed help. "Before you vote," he said, "let me speak." Gavin tried to say no, but Veronica Hayes stopped him. "Let him talk." Callan stood at the front. "Yes, I met a woman at the cemetery. Yes, I care about her, but that doesn't mean I can't lead this company." He took a flash drive from his pocket and plugged it in. His own slideshow came on. "This is my new plan," he said, showing a map. "This land is only 3 miles away. It's bigger, better for building, and doesn't involve building on graves. He showed the next slide. It had money numbers. It costs more now, he said, but we'll make more money later. And no bad press. The board members leaned in, interested. And the cemetery? Callan said. We give it to the trust. We get a big tax break and good news coverage. Callan was showing slides to the people in the meeting room. He talked clearly and slowly, showing his new plan. When he finished, the room became very quiet. This is not about my personal feelings, Asha said softly. It's about doing the right thing for the right reasons. And sometimes the right thing for business is also the right thing in your heart. Gavin stood up. His face was red and angry. This is exactly what I'm talking about, he shouted. You're letting your feelings get in the way. We're not here to do the right thing. We're here to make money. Veronica spoke up. Actually, Gavin, we're here to make something good for the people who own shares in our company, and Callan's plan does that better than yours. She looked at Callan. Are your numbers checked? Callan nodded. Yes. 3 different experts looked at them. The papers are in the folders I gave you. One by one, the other people in the room started to say they liked Callan's plan. Gavin couldn't believe it. His idea was falling apart. He picked up his papers and said, This isn't over. You're all making a big mistake. He walked toward the door. Callan stood up and called out, Gavin, wait. Gavin stopped and turned around, still angry. Please clean out your office, Callan said calmly. You're not on this team anymore. Gavin's face turned even redder, but before he could say anything, 2 guards walked in. Mr. Stone, we will walk you out, one guard said. After Gavin left, everyone voted to use Callan's plan. It won. As the meeting ended, Veronica walked over to Callan. You did a good job, she said, but Gavin wasn't all wrong. You have changed lately. Callan smiled. Yes, I think I've changed for the better. She must be a very special woman, Veronica said. She is, Callan replied, checking his watch. And I need to go tell her the good news. He found Lena at the Blue Cup Cafe. It was the same place where they had coffee the first time. She was sitting at the same table, playing nervously with a napkin. When she saw him, she stood up. How did it go? Callan smiled big. We won. The cemetery is safe. Lena put her hand over her mouth, her eyes filled with happy tears. Really? All of it? Yes, Callan said. We're giving the land to a group that will protect it forever. Lena jumped up and hugged him tightly. Callan held her close and felt her tears on his shirt. When she pulled back, she was still crying, but smiling. Thank you, she said. I don't know how to thank you enough. You don't need to thank me, Callan said. You made me care again. You helped me see that some things are more important than money. Lena gently touched his face. So, what happens now? Callan thought for a moment. Now we finish the papers. Then what? Lena asked. Callan held her hand. Then whatever you want, Lena. I don't want to rush you. I know you're still healing, still thinking about what's next. Lena looked down at their hands. I've been thinking a lot about what you said last night, about loving someone new without forgetting someone you lost. She looked into his eyes. I think I'm ready to try. Callan felt his heart beat fast. Are you sure? No, Lena laughed a little. I'm scared, but I want to try with you. 3 months later, on a cool Sunday morning, Lena sat by Micah's grave like always. The cemetery looked different now. New signs showed it was a special place to be protected. Workers were fixing the oldest parts. But Lena's routine stayed the same: chair, coffee, and notebook. Today, she was alone. She needed to say something to Micah. I met someone, she whispered, touching Micah's name on the stone. His name is Callan. He's not like you, but he's kind and funny and a little stubborn. She took a deep breath. I think I'm falling in love with him. And I wanted you to know first. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she wasn't only sad. I'll always love you, Micah. That won't change, but now my heart is starting to make space for someone else. I hope that's okay. A soft breeze moved the flowers on the grave. Callan now brought lilies every week. and Lena still brought her roses. "I think you'd like him," she said. "He saved this place. He made sure I could keep coming to see you." She wiped her tears. "I'll keep visiting, bringing you coffee, writing letters. That won't change, but the letters might sound different, maybe happier." She sat in quiet peace. A heavy feeling lifted from her heart. She still felt sad sometimes, but she didn't feel guilty anymore. After a while, she packed her things and walked to the parking lot. Callan was waiting, leaning on his car. "Okay?" he asked kindly. Lena nodded. "Okay." They went to a little cafe for breakfast. They talked about small, everyday things. When they were almost done eating, Callan reached into his coat pocket. "I have something for you," he said, and placed a small envelope on the table. Lena looked at it. "What is it?" "Open it and see." Inside was a letter written by Callan. "To the woman who taught me how to write to someone I lost." It began. "I finally did it. I wrote to Maeve last night. I told her about you, about how amazing it is to feel this way again. Thank you for showing me that I can hold on to the past and still look forward to the future." Lena looked up with tears in her eyes. "Callan?" He held her hand. "There's more." She kept reading. "I know it's too early to talk about forever. We're still learning and healing, but I want you to know I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Because loving you doesn't feel like starting over. It feels like the next part of a story I thought was over. A new chapter, but still about love." It ended with, "Yours, Callan." Lena folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. "I have something for you too," she said. She reached into her purse and gave him a folded paper. It wasn't from her regular notebook. It was special paper she bought just for this. Callan opened it and read, "To the man who reads my letters now, I've spent 3 years writing letters to someone who couldn't write back. I poured out my heart, not thinking anyone would ever see them. Until you. You read my letters when the wind carried them to you, and you knew exactly what I needed, someone who understands that grief doesn't go away. We just learn how to carry it." He looked up at her with bright eyes, then kept reading. "I don't know what happens next, but I want to find out. So here's a new letter. The first of many, I hope. Not to someone I've lost, but to someone I've found. Someone I'm choosing. Someone who might choose me back." It ended with one sweet question. "Ready to write a new story together?" Callan looked up. His answer was clear before he even said it. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready." The next Sunday, it was raining. Lena still drove to the cemetery by herself. Some habits needed to stay, even as new ones began. She sat in her chair with her umbrella, poured 2 cups of coffee, and placed one on Micah's grave. "Black with 1 sugar," she said quietly, just like always. She opened her notebook and began to write. This time, it wasn't a letter full of sadness or tears. It was a letter full of thankfulness for the love she had shared with Micah, for the time they had, and for the way he helped her become the woman she was now. When she finished, she closed the notebook. She looked up and saw Callan walking toward her, holding his umbrella. She packed her things and walked to him. She gave him the letter she had just written. "You've read all my letters," she said, just like in the first note she ever left him. "Maybe now it's time I write one to someone new." Callan took the letter with one hand and held her with the other. Together, they walked through the rain. They were leaving behind the past, but carrying with them all the love that had brought them together. A love that started in a place of endings and became a place of new beginnings. Above them, the clouds moved and a little bit of sunlight came through, shining on the path ahead. It was still unsure, but now they weren't walking alone.